For me, because I am really good in stressful situations.
Yeah.
But. Good morning, April.
So I teach a lot too. So I have a lot of students.
Oh.
So I think a lot of the photos, crazy stuff. It's like, I have to do that. I just feel
So
like,
you have a teaching moment.
exactly, because
Yeah.
you can use it for educational
All right.
purposes.
Of course.
But
We won't sign me by that.
Can you put a, probably should go make this stuff online? I'm trying to remember what my password is. I had to do this online and today I was like, but the win is. Hold on. I'm having a hard time.
That's right.
Well, because my password is saved, so I don't know how to get into it over there. I'm gonna have to like forget my password. You can, no, you, why don't you just look up your password? Oh. I can't, I love it when I do something else. Yeah, I probably don't. I'm having people how to do it. Like I normally will type in there. Find safe passwords. Which. I didn't touch on Google, that's very down. I'm pretty scared. Breakfast for a long time, then. Probably it's 3 dots, so sorry. 3 dots.
You are good. We'll get it worked out. This is Monday.
This is the problem, we have everything saved, yep, but you should be able to search it.
Yeah, we should be out there.
Yeah. So if I can just know my alphabet.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one. Let's see, you know, how many times I forgot my password, that I knew it was saved, but I didn't want to reset it. Okay. Okay, so. That's what you checked today. Lucky I have one.
For how that. There's donuts.
But I'm not getting my 14, so I'm gonna start doing some professions.
Gotcha. Hang on with us, guys. We're having a technical moment.
We're getting there. I've got a great coach. And I'm super slow with this pad, this touch pad. Okay, did you get it done? I put some these. White or custard?
Custard.
Ah.
Is there another way to go?
There are some occasional people that will come in here with the white inside.
Yeah, no, that's
And
right.
I'm like, I know it's really long.
That is. Really the new one is horrible.
It is. Oh, did you get it?
Yeah, she's got it.
Yay. I think so. This is what it says it is. Da, 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 da. Yay.
There we go.
How about that, right? Oh, let's see. Here it is. Okay, so y'all can't see the screen, can you?
Sure.
All right, hang on.
Everybody.
yeah.
Overall?
Yeah, she's gonna be 4 weeks on Wednesday.
Oh my God, you like just had this right.
Yeah.
Still in that sleep deprived moment. Can everybody hear and see now? Okay, getting a thumbs up.
All right, you
All
guys,
right.
and you can hear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, good deal.
All right, sorry for that. I have my password saved, so then when I had to log into it on this computer, I was like, I don't remember it. So this is a program that we use. If you don't know me, by the way, Erin DeArmas, I almost said Shelter Home Mortgage, Onward Home Mortgage. And today I just want to go through kind of some of the things that we've touched on in the meetings where it's, the first one's gonna be buy versus rent. We can also look at a couple others, but we'll start here because this is the one that's my favorite. And we're gonna kind of dive deep into it because I want you guys to see how the numbers break out. And this is a great conversation piece, or we can make these charts for you, so just know that if you have an open house, or if you've got buyers that are kind of on the fence, or they're wanting to buy, but they're just nervous about, you know, the payment or whatever that is, it helps you to, I think I can do this actually, this is much better. It helps you to be able to give them the overall wealth building of buying versus renting versus just comparing, hey, it's, you know, might be $3,000 to rent versus $3,500 to buy. If they're just looking at the monthly payment, they're missing out on all the other stuff. So let me see here. I'm gonna try to do this from the big screen. So I'm just gonna put in a zip code. So in this section, I'm just putting in, you know, our area here. And I'm gonna try this keyword. So I'm gonna do Gwinnett. Now, if you had an open house and you're like, hey, I want the numbers that compare to this particular property, you can send me a full address and I can do that. So I'm gonna use a purchase value of, what would you say? This is more toward first time home buyers, 450.
Yeah, 500.
Okay, we'll do 500. And I say this is geared more toward first time buyers because I'm thinking you're comparing renting, right? So. Okay, so I kind of want to break down, so you see, I just put the address in, or the zip code, and then I put in the value of the home. So if you're looking in that price range of 500,000, and it's gonna spit out all this stuff. I kind of want to go through this and show you where it's getting its data, what data we're using. So first of all,
But this is,
yeah,
is this where you go?
this is where I go. No, I mean, you could if you want to create your own account for them, but it's, you pay for it. So in this respect, utilize us, we'll give it to you for free, but I just want you to know how to read it.
Okay.
So you don't really know how to do it and access it.
Right.
I just want you to know this is what I would end up sending you. I just kind of want to show you what I can put in. So if you don't have a particular home yet, you just got a buyer in the Gwinnett County, you know, Peachtree, Corners, Norcross area, you know, thinking 500,000, so we have those parameters, that's what I'm using. If it's more specific, you have an open house on a property, I can sort of do it that way. But, so once I put in those parameters and it spits out this data for me, oh wow, this scrolls fast. This is with MBS Highway, so MBS Highway collects all sorts of data real estate wise. So it's got data collected for rent. It's got data collected for, you know, appreciation, years and years of historical data, and then it also forecasts based on historical data based on what's going on in the market right now. This is what we use a lot for the kind of information we bring you guys regarding rates or anything like that, what's going on in the market. So it's pulling from its own data. So it's saying monthly rent is about $1.40 a square foot. This is on historical data that it's grabbed on, you know, millions of properties over the years and what they are right now, what rents are going for. That's how it's collecting this. So I'm not putting that in. If you want to tweak that, or if you get this and you're like, hey, I think that's a little high, or I think that's a little low, we can tweak this number right here if we want, but it's going to calculate based on the data that it is pulling from the market. Renter's insurance, so usually I leave this unless you tell me something different, which you usually would. The annual net increase percent, this means because you can see over here, this chart that it creates is a rent versus buy over 9 years. So it is gonna calculate, again, based on the historical data that it's pulled and how rents increase, it's gonna say, okay, we're gonna assume about a 6% rent increase each year going forward. So it's gonna start out with a rent number and we'll get to that, but it's gonna automatically in this chart, it's calculating things like how the rent is historically rising. It's also calculating things like how your property taxes will historically rise, how they will rise based on the forecast of the appreciation they're including. So it's not just a stagnant, hey, what it is on year 1 and year 1, it's the same on year 9. It's adding and it's changing all those things. It's very fluid. So this is just my property. If you had an open house, sorry, wrong way, and wanted to name it, the address, I could put that in there and it would have the title for you. Okay, so the house, so that's the renters up on the top where it's calculating the average for the county, it's adding that, and it's saying I'm gonna also include about 6% annual increase. So for the property, that means, okay, this is for the part that we're buying, so this is the comparison there, we put in 500,000. Here's our annual effective tax rate at about 1.3%. Home insurance, I think that's probably pretty decent. Annual property tax increase, so it's gonna calculate that your taxes are gonna go up 2% per year. Repairs and HOA, so we could take this out, if there's no HOA, if you're doing, right now I'm gonna leave it as is, because I just wanna show you. But if if we're doing a condo instead, and you know the HOA is $400, go ahead and tell me that when you're asking me to do it. And I can adjust that so that we're more accurate, because we don't wanna show numbers that just make it look good, we wanna actually compare for the person. So we'll just leave it around that. Cost to sell 6%, meaning when they eventually do sell this home, if they live in it for 9 years and they go to sell it, we're assuming it's gonna cost them 6% in agent fees, 3 on each side to do that. So that is all gonna be figured in. Let's see if I remember correctly. Okay, so that's the data we're working with. Does that all make sense? There was one more, I think, actually, hold on. I'm gonna minimize these. I'm so sorry for my erratic mouth movement, but this little touchpad is really sensitive and fast, so I'm sorry. Bear with me. Okay, so the loan name, so this one is based on 10% down. So if we wanted a first-time home buyer, we might do, we might split the difference and say, let's do 5% instead of 10, just in case. So I can put, again, we could do 3% if we wanted. We can do 20%, whatever we wanna do, we can do that. 30 years conventional loan, 7.5% rate, I think that's okay right now. Based on, so the FICO, so see, it even puts in mortgage insurance based on that stuff. Now, that's gonna be a little, it's an estimate, okay, so we're not saying that's exact, but I'm gonna leave all of that as is. Closing costs, it's doing about 2%, so that obviously wouldn't include like prepayments and stuff like that, but again, that's not necessarily a cost as much as it is they're paying their first year, insurance and taxes and stuff, so we'll leave all of that the way it is too. And then the last one, the home ownership, this is the one that kind of tells us, again, we can adjust this if you don't want to see it over 9 years, if you want to see it over 5 years, 15 years, whatever. This is the default, so I want to start here. We're in Georgia, we're in Gwinnett. Here's where it's pulling in, and so it's telling you what the historical appreciation. Remember, this is average per year, so obviously we know the last few years have not been average. And then the forecasted average is about, you can see it's about 3.27. So those are the numbers it's going to be using. It's not using the historical for this scenario, but it's going to use that forecasted appreciation as in all the numbers in the charts that it's pulling for you. Federal, state, tax rate, that's used in there for the tax incentive for interest write-offs. Now, it's different now than it used to be, whereas if you're doing the standard deduction, it's really done different. It's only if you're itemizing that it's really gonna be a thing. But, okay, wrong way. So let me try to go back up to the first chart. So this is over 9 years, right? So we're saying year one, if you buy, we kind of went through all of where it's pulling its data from, but it's saying on that loan, you put 5% down, you're doing an interest rate of 7.5, there's the annual APR. We're doing 33.21 in P&I, so that's your principal and interest. Then we've got property taxes, maintenance and repair, that could be an HOA, whatever. And then here's the monthly total payment. So $44.78 to buy that $500,000 house. Now, to rent a house of similar size is basically what this means. They pay about $37.74. So you look at that, or your buyer's looking at that and saying, well, it's more expensive for me to buy. So I think I might just wait for rates to come down, all that good stuff. Well, this is why we show the long-term chart. I mean, if they're only gonna live here for a year, yeah, they should just rent. But if they're planning to live here, the rule of thumb is what, usually 2 years plus is what I'm used to hearing. Like if you're planning on being here at least 2 years, then it can make sense for you to buy. So, and you can look at this chart now. The blue is your purchase, so that's your mortgage payment. The purple is your rent payment. So you can see that they don't average out till about year 4. However, that's just strictly the monthly payment that they're paying. We all know there's a whole lot more into it than that. So this is saying over 9 years, even though it costs more on your monthly payment to buy than it does to rent, at the end of the day, they're gonna have a cash flow difference of, they'll be positive by $30,000. What does that mean? That means if you just took, here is the rent or the mortgage payment, every month for 9 years, you get a total. I'm not adding that up for you. And if you did the rent, now, remember over here on the left, we had a 6% annual increase in rent, and down here we had with the loan, or with the property, we had a 2% annual increase in property taxes. So these aren't stagnant. So if you look at that, it starts at 44.78. That's your mortgage payment. So if we look down here, we're at like 45.34. So we've gone up over the years, which we know that always happens as long as your home is appreciating, your taxes are gonna be moving. So your rent payment though, they're saying 6% is the average. So every year your rent is getting higher. So your mortgage is getting a little bit higher, but your rent is going to grow at a bigger increase each year than your mortgage payment. And we also know that of this money that you're spending per year, this much of it, your principal and interest, part of that is going towards your principal. So you have an amount that you're actually paying back to yourself. So that whole 44.78 isn't just going to a landlord like the whole 37.74 is. So you're knowing that there's also a piece of that payment every month that's going toward what they're gonna call here your amortization gain. So that means of all these payments that you're paying, this is how much you're putting back into your pocket. So you know every purple payment that's being made, absolutely none of that's coming back to the client, right? No, it's all going to the landlord. It's going to the landlord's amortization gain, but not to the renter. So the cash flow difference, back to that one, is literally just if you multiplied 9 years of rent payments and you multiplied 9 years of the mortgage payments, you would save over 9 years $30,000 by buying just in the payments that they're making per month. So they're going to pay 30 grand more out of their pocket for renting over that 9-year period because of the average increases in rent versus the mortgage payment. I mean, your taxes can go up with your value, but other than that, it's locked in, right? So you're not subject to those market increases like rent payments are. So right away, you're ahead by 30,000 just in what you're paying as your payment each month. Even though your mortgage starts higher than your rent, by the time you're down here, look how much higher your rent is. So that's the cash flow difference, meaning what we just talked about, out of pocket each month. Then you got your amortization gain, which remember that is of your monthly mortgage payments. And we all know with the mortgage, the way the amortization works, you're very interest heavy in the early years. So even being interest heavy in the early years of your mortgage, you're still gonna pay off about $54,000 of that $475,000 loan we took out in the first 9 years. So with this payment here that you're paying, you're still gonna put that much back into your pocket after those first 9 years. So you paid that much less by buying, you've gained that much more of the payments that you're paying each month that you put back into your pocket. And then this big number right here, that's based on the forecasted average of 3.27% appreciation each year. That's how much your house has appreciated. So you bought it for 500,000 and 9 years later, they're saying it's gonna be worth about 667 or 668. So to me, that's a pretty big number. So now we're looking again, your renter, hey, you can keep putting off buying, but this is what you're missing out on, right? Even if it's a little more expensive out of your pocket at the front, you're basically putting it away for later, is what you're doing. So the amortization gain, 475 is what our loan started with. After 9 years, here's your loan balance, 428.58. The tax benefit, this is over the years of being able to deduct your interest, which you also don't get to do for rent. And then your cost to sell. So it figures in what it costs you to own as well, right? So if that house appreciates to 657, it's gonna cost you about 40 grand when you sell it. So that's all figured in. So this number here takes that number into account. This number here, well, that's pretty straightforward. So the results, then we can see overall, wrong way, this is backwards. So this nice little chart says, okay, yeah, in year one, yeah, you're losing a lot of money. You're paying out of pocket a lot to buy your house, right? We know that. You're not just signing a lease. You're paying closing costs, you're paying your down payment. All of that is included in that. Oops, I'm covering it up. 18.5, it's saying. But look, already by year two, you're coming up a little bit into the green. So remember, this is including the cash flow, the amortization, and your appreciation. All three of those aspects, because you can't just pick one, which is when you hear, to me, like media headlines, that's why they're so infuriating. It's because a lot of times they just focus on the one thing. Oh, the rents are, it's better to rent than to buy right now because house prices are so high and rates are high that your mortgage payment is higher than your rent payment. Okay, that's one of three aspects that we just walked through, right? You're not doing them a disservice by saying you're better off renting, because long-term, they're not. So this is, to me, I feel like it's up to us to be able to understand that and convey that to people who are kind of on the fence. And if they're first-time buyers, they don't understand the wealth that can come from homeownership. That, you need a place to live anyway, right? We all have to pay for a place to live and a roof over our heads. So when you really start to dig in, there's no long-term benefit to the rent, unless you move around a ton and you're like, hey, I'm gonna be here a year, and then I'm going here, and then I'm going here. Hey, for a traveling nurse, sure, rent for a while. But when they're looking at, hey, I'm ready to stay in one place, or whatever that case may be, showing them the long-term benefits. It's kind of like meeting with a financial planner versus not, So by year two, we're already starting to get into the green. So again, you can see these numbers. By year three, you're ahead 23 grand. Year four, 48 grand. 77 grand by year five, all the way up to the net gain here after 9 years of buying that home is $228,000. So how did I get to that number? It's adding all of these. So you've saved $30,000 just in your monthly payments because of that much less over the course of 9 years. You've gained appreciation. That's our biggest number, but you've also paid down your mortgage. So part of that monthly payment has gone back to you in terms of amortization. So all of that together gets you here. So, sorry, and you're good. That's by year 9. Look at year 10, it jumps another 50 grand. And remember, it's gonna keep jumping because especially this amortization, it's very interest heavy the earlier years of your loan. Like if you ever looked at an amortization chart, which is so, no one wants to look at the 30-year amortization chart for their loan. But when you look at the early payments, so say it's $3,000 is your P&I, just for easy numbers. And I don't know the exact percentages, so don't quote me, but the majority of that is going toward interest at first. So say, $2,700 in interest, $300 in principal. But every single month that changes, it starts like this. Well, actually, it starts like this. Interest, principal, every single month, it starts to go like this. So the 3,000 is gonna be the same amount, but every month it's a little less interest, a little more principal, a little less interest, a little more principal. So if you ever look at the amortization chart, it's worth looking at just so your brain, because I'm visual, so I can know that, but when I see those numbers, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So as you get further into your mortgage, when you get to year 8, 9, 10, you're paying a lot more of that total, fixed amount is going toward principal than it is interest. And then once you get toward the later years of your mortgage, now you're paying more more principal each month than interest. So that's why you'll start to gain even faster as the years go by, because so much more of your payment every month is going towards your principal and not your interest. So, anyways, so that is, let me see if I can make this go up just the wrong way. I want you to see the bottom. So our initial closing costs were 10 grand. And our cost to sell the home later is 6%. Now that was at year 9. So obviously that number will go up too, as say you waited till year 15 because your house is worth more, right? So that's always 6% of what that is. But this chart will figure that. It will all be included. So that's why this one is highlighting year 9, because that's just what we've chosen. So at year 9, it's gonna cost you this much to sell it. This was your initial down payment, closing cost. And then here's your cash flow difference, meaning you paid less over 9 years each month, just in terms of output. And then your 3 other things, your appreciation, amortization, and then your tax savings. So to that client who's sitting there and they're just like, I don't know, it's, what was it up here? Like 44 versus, I mean, it's almost, $700 more to buy my house, I don't know, I think I'll just keep renting and waiting for rates to come down. Well, what happens when rates come down? Yeah, we all think the cost of the house is gonna go up, because right now we currently have low inventory. So suddenly if rates drop to, 6% or 5% even, wow, that would be amazing. Then, you can have all these people who've been sitting around waiting, saying, okay, now I'm ready. Well, now you've got, I don't wanna say 2020 again, but you've got lots more offers for every house, which are gonna drive the price up. I mean, you never know, we might see people going over the list price again with cash and all that. What does that mean for first time home buyers? They're again, the ones that are left in the tight spot. Because they may not have the cash, they don't have the cash from the equity of a house that they've been sitting on, that they can now say, oh, that's fine, I'll pay 50K cash over appraisal value, whatever, I love this house. They don't have that option. They're sitting around with their 5% down or whatever that they've saved, or that their parents are giving them, or whatever. Not all of them, obviously, but the ones that might be on the fence right now. So this, helping them understand the benefit long-term to buying now. And of course, this is the cash flow gain based on a 7.5% rate. So what if somewhere in this year, we refinance that into a 5.5%? Well, this number is gonna be even higher, because this is based on them just keeping that 7.5% mortgage for all those years. So they can still get into that house, again, get into the home that you love now, less competition, you can actually negotiate. I see seller paid, contributions on some of those contracts versus waiting till the rates are good and everyone else wants in. And then you can still get the good rate when that comes around. That's the best part. You can get that, but you're already just chilling in your house, loving it. You're not out there doing multiple offers, bidding over, buying a house that's worth, that's more. You're sitting over here in your house, just saying, okay, let's refi to a lower rate. I've already earned money. I've already increased my value over the last 2 years by almost 7 or 8%. So out of $500,000 house, you're looking at what, 35,000? They've made an appreciation after 2 years. So that's the best scenario. So are there questions on these? I wanted to just really try to explain it. So this is pretty much what it would look like if you ask me for this. It'll be a PDF that I'll send you that'll have all these numbers, the cash flow difference, the top chart, all of those charts right there. That's what you will have. So questions, or did I not cover something or something? Are you still like, I don't get why it's that?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yeah, so I do have a quick question when it comes down to the portion of the PMI. Do we have a something else like a projection that will show that they have met that portion and now it's not part of their monthly?
Like when the PMI drops off, you mean?
Yes.
That's actually a good question, because I don't know, like, if we continue this, usually PMI, like, if they put down 5%, if they don't refinance, if they don't try to get another appraisal or something, I think they usually pay it, the standard amortization will probably be after about 8 years. So let me do a little research one. That's actually a good question to know if that does drop out, because it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Well, 45. Let me figure that out and I'll let you know for sure, because it's possible that it does. Maybe if we went a little further, because remember, these are still going up with property taxes, so it's possible that they do drop that out. But let me find that out. That's a good question.
Yeah, because it should keep that almost at payment level, in all honesty, it will drop a percentage of the PMI and still the property taxes will go up. But it will keep it more or less more stable,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and and if this isn't figuring that in, then they have it's even better payment, once that's gone. Any other questions? All right, I want to show you guys another one. Okay, let me Let's see if I can move this out of my way for a second without doing something. Five versus red. Versus. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. All right, let's move you back up. I feel like I've never used a computer before using this little pad.
I use it for Ignite and it drives me batty.
Well, I mean, and I use the little oh my gosh, touchpad on my computer,
Yeah.
on my laptop, but it's not nearly as sensitive.
It's, well, it's not the same. I use two fingers to go up and down and it doesn't work and it's all.
Yeah, and it's kind of like my Mac computer where it's the opposite of the other one. I'm like, okay, that's up, not down. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. Well, that's too many zeros. All right, so we'll do 500,000 again. Okay. We'll do no HOA. I'm not even gonna do this tax deduction, let's just do this. All right, so we've got a new loan. All right. 5% down. Conventional 6.5, that's fine. Let's do closing costs, we'll do 10 just so we're all the same. So sorry, this one takes a little longer. Let's see. So this one kind of filled it in. Let me see if there's anything we want to change. Yeah, I want to change some of these. So what this one does is let me explain what this calculation is doing. So it's a cost of waiting of $500,000. So again, the same buyer that we'd be talking to, like they're just not sure if they want to buy yet, or if it's the right time, or if they should wait for rates to come down, or heaven forbid, they think house prices are actually coming down, and they're just not sure. So again, this is pulling same kind of historical data, same forecasted data, which is based on the historical data, the current market trends. I mean, every month their data changes because they get all the new monthly data coming in from housing. So the basics of it for if they got the loan today, right? We're looking at a $500,000 price, 5% down, so a loan of $475, 30-year fix, down payment is 5%. The interest rate is 7.5, APR is 7.9, that sounds about right, MI is 261. So this one says, if they waited 6 months. So in 6 months, hey, that $500,000 house might be about 504 now. So here's your loan amount, a couple $1,000s higher, your down payment slightly higher, your interest rate might be a little less, okay? We're saying, hey, maybe rates are a little bit lower. Now, this may not be the case. This is what it spits out, and we can tweak all those. Fixed, okay, mortgage insurance, a couple dollars higher just because the loan amount's higher. Waiting a year. So right here, it's telling you its forecasted appreciation in the next 6 months on that house is about 0.79%, a little under 1%. What do you guys think? That might be low.
Here in Gwinnett County, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, depends. So now if they waited 1 year, so again, kind of ignore this one now, we're comparing again, okay, buying now versus buying in 1 year. Now it says it thinks the house will be 4.76 higher in 1 year, right? So now your $500,000 house is 523, almost 524. So your new loan amount is now 497. Your down payment's 26,190, but hey, in a year, the rate's a little bit better, so you know, that's kind of what you were wanting, right? You wanted that rate to come down. Your mortgage insurance is a little higher, because again, your loan amount's higher, that's all based on that. So I'm gonna change, let's change these, let's go down 0.5% each year. Is that one waiting 2 years? Let's do this. You know, I'm just saying.
Probably Crystal.
Alright, waiting 2 years. And then, you know what, let's wait 3 years and see if it actually goes 5.5. Alright. Waiting 3 years. Edit. Sorry. This is painful. Well, no one will wanna buy if it's 65.5% interest, so. Wrong way. Next time I do this, I'm gonna have to do like, can we look up my computer? This is painful. Okay, so now we've changed it, right? So now we're saying, hey, every 6 months, the rate's going down 0.5%. So compared to buying it now, what if we waited 3 years till rates were 5.5%? Like, oh my gosh, that would be great. But look how much your house costs now. You're at 561 now. So your loan amount is 533, you're borrowing 533,000 versus 478. Your down payment's a few grand higher. Your mortgage insurance is higher. So let's see what it's gonna do here. So here's our appreciation on the property in 3 years, right? So we start here, we're gonna end at 560. But our payments are lower because we have a better interest rate if they go all the way down. But you can still see that even with that lower payment, because of the price of the house being so much higher. And what else are we missing out on to wait 3 years? The appreciation, which we saw here in 3 years based on forecast, which is based on historical, which is based on current market trends, is $60,000. So here, cost of waiting, so versus buying a home today, which we saw that $500,000 loan at 7.5. If they wait 6 months, they're losing $6,000. Again, most of that is appreciation. If they wait a year, they're losing $28,000. And here's your appreciation line, right? So you can see how big that number is. So of $28,000, 24,000 of it, basically, all the $4 grand is appreciation. And then their amortization is basically the rest of it. So here, their cash flow, you can see, is better, right? Because that payment is actually lower. However, overall, they're losing money. And what happens if year 3 rates are 5.5? The person who bought it here on day 1, on today, is refinancing. So now their payment is actually better than that because they're now refinancing into a 5.5, but they started with a loan amount of 475. So after their amortization over the last 3 years, they might refi and they might be, say they're 465 or 470, but they're still at a 5.5, just like this person, but this person's loan amount is about, 540 or something. So this is gonna be better for the guy who buys the house today, because that rate, they can all get that rate when it comes out, but the person who waits for that rate and does not buy the home until the rate is where they want it, they're paying so much more for the house, they're missing out on $61,000 just of owning the house of appreciation. They've missed out on $14,000 of amortization. So over those 3 years where they're paying their landlord rent versus paying their own mortgage, their $14,000 they lost. Because of that 3 years worth of rent, $14,000 of it would have gone back into their pocket if they buy the house now. So they're missing out, there's $75,000 poorer if they don't buy today and they wait to buy that house. So, I mean, this one is an easier one probably to talk through. I think the other one, if you've got real analytical people, like say you got an engineer or you got an accountant or something, they might dig on skiing, all those other parts of crap. This one is a little more straightforward, but it's really in your face in a good way to say, hey, I understand rent is cheaper right now, but you gotta look deeper than that. That's the top layer, let's look underneath. In 3 years, would you rather have $75,000 more to your net worth? I mean, who's gonna say no? Or would you rather be right where you are now? That's essentially what it is. Because you're gonna pay that monthly payment. So where is it gonna go? Wrong way, let's see. So here's another little graph. I think that's okay. So cost of waiting, a new loan, the losses from appreciation and amortization. So again, those are what our big numbers are coming from, right? So in 6 months, you've lost, oops, I won't use the arrow. So you lost a total of 6,000, so it breaks it down and says 3,900 of that was the appreciation that you missed out on, and 2,100 was the amortization that you missed out on. So in 6 months of payments, you could have had 2,100 of it back, just because you were paying your mortgage instead of your landlord. Waiting 1 year, I mean, to me, that, even that amortization number is huge. Like in 1 year, you're, you're in 12 months, you could have $4,300 rebate, basically, from your rent payments. If you bought instead. 2 years, $9,000, and 3 years, 14 grand, like, those are big, those are real numbers, so. I think this is a great chart for those, buyers. Now, this is how much money they need, right? So we're looking at down payment, this is just down payment right now. Let's see here, I'm trying to get it centered, but it wants to be difficult. All right, we're gonna leave it here. Before I tell them this stuff. So the red is 6 months, so, versus today, it's practically the same, you're paying $200 more. In a year, you're paying $1,190 more, 2 years, $2,177, and in 3 years, $3,060 more, and that's because the house is getting more expensive, so your 5% down payment is that much more. So in 3 years, I mean, 3,000, that's a decent, that's a decent amount when you're only paying 5% of the purchase price. So, this is a great chart. Again, I can do this one for just a property that, a price range that you're looking at. Or we can look at it for a particular house, like if you want one of these in your open house, to help people make that decision, like, hey, they're looking, they're obviously interested, and maybe they haven't, jumped off the fence yet. Any questions on that?
But so like, I have a couple lines, and what they wanna see is, what's my payment gonna be this month? I mean, now
Yeah,
versus waiting. Like, two of my clients, they just wanna see straight, like, what would I be paying for my mortgage payment every month now? Or if I wait for the rates to drop, that's what they want to see, that this would be a lot for them.
so I
Well,
think
for one of them.
for those people, one, we could do that, certainly. And basically, we could do something like this. I wonder if this has,
Like, just how much their monthly mortgage payment would be, more or less.
yeah,
I mean, you can't tell them exactly, but.
here we go. So here is your monthly principal and interest. So this is based on the scenarios that we have. So today, buying the property at 500,000, 5% down, 7.5 rate, principal and interest. And principal and interest is all you want to be comparing. Because taxes and insurance they're gonna be what they are, right? So, and they're going to go up because if the property is worth 560, the tax bill is gonna be higher than what it was worth 500. But, so there's your principal and interest. If they wanted to wait a year, and that rate does do that and goes down a full point, it is less, even though the property is more, so their monthly payment is less. And if they waited 3 years, their monthly payment is here.
Yeah.
Again, but their loan amount is here. And remember, this person who bought here can now refi at this rate, but at a lower loan amount, so their payment's gonna be under that.
A lot more.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's, I think, the key thing is to let people know, if you sit around and you wait for the rates, yes, I see that this one is 3,300 and this one is 3,000. Like, I get what they're looking at, like, that's $300 a month savings. It is, except here's your loan amount versus here's your loan amount. Would you pay $60,000 to have a lower monthly payment? Basically, you're paying $60,000 over 3 years to save $300 a month, which is $3,600 a year. So after 3 years of saving $3,600, you save what, we'll call it 12,000, we'll round up. But it costs you $60,000 in equity to save that $12,000 a month on your payments over the next 3 years. Plus, once you get here, when the rates get here, you refinance this one. So now your payment's less than that anyway. So now you're saving money every month too, even more than this person, and you still got the $60,000 equity sitting in the property that you own. So yes, we can certainly look at what the payments are versus what they're gonna be versus what they are. And you can see the interest rate plays a big role. It does, 100%. But if they can afford this, they're investing in their future, they're investing in having a $60,000 more of equity by year 3 than if they just waited for that 5.5%. So that's a great question, and that's a great, thing to talk through with them, and helping them understand that too, these charts down here, kind of show that yes, I understand, like, your payment starts here and it goes here, but it's only for this period. It's not gonna be that for 30 years or however long you have it, it's for that short period, but at the same time that your payment is higher, you're also writing this up. So you can't discount that, you can't look at only that and not that. And you can't look at only that and not that, if you've got to look at both and say, okay, what's the best outcome? I've got to consider both things. But when you're renting, you've got zero appreciation, there's nothing, there's no interest deduction, there's no amortization benefit, there's no appreciation benefit. All of that is your landlord's, not yours. Yeah, so I love these numbers because I like to see stuff and that, I feel like a lot of times in our industry when we're talking to people too, this gets you out of ever looking like, not that you were, but ever looking like you just want to sell a house. I'm trying to tell you it's a great time to buy because that's what I do, right? I want you to buy because I sell houses or I do loans. But no, I really firmly believe it's a great time to buy because it's better than it's going to be in 3 years, better than it's going to be in 2 years for you. It's better for you if we can make that jump now. If you can afford that 3,300, let's do it now, because look at all you're gonna gain, look how much better off you'll be in 3 years than if you keep renting now. Don't buy and wait till that rate is there with everybody else who doesn't have this information, being walked through with them. I feel like we're doing them just such a better service by saying, let's break this down together. I don't want you to buy a house just to buy a house. Like, I'm passionate about helping you build wealth in real estate, that's what I do, so yeah. I like this stuff too.
Do these work about the same way with a shorter loan term?
Like the 15-year? Well, let's look at it. Before I start changing it, does anyone on Zoom land have any questions?
No, I was gonna comment though on what Estrella was saying. What you're showing there for the appreciation is just a very basic, 3.7% appreciation per year. And that's not factoring in the fact that as interest rates go down, we're going to see more and more buyers coming into the market. I know we can't quantify that, but that price for the home could go up substantially just given the supply and demand issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is based on just you could say these are pretty conservative numbers wise. We're looking at an average of 2.7 for Gwinnett County for the average per year for the next years. So in 3 years, if that rate really does drop to 5.5%, and you've got all those people that have been waiting that are ready to buy now, we could see where that it's not 560. It might cost you 580 or closer to 600 because you're in multiple offers with people and you're bidding over what it's really worth again.
Yeah, a little concerning when the rates go down, what's gonna happen to the prices that were already high. Because like even in our neighborhoods, I wanna say post-COVID frenzy period. I mean, the houses were, between 5 and 550 and now they're 8 to 9 easily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what's gonna happen? It's like, how are they gonna get? It's gonna make it so no one can afford to live there. So not everyone live there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about our neighborhood too.
It's like it's scary because the first time home buyers, they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, it's hard. Hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, we might see more, new builds that are catered a little bit more toward entry level homes versus, some builders do that. Maybe we'll see a rise in those kind of builders too.
There's nowhere to build anymore.
Yeah, well, there's that. Maybe we'll see more conversions, condo conversions and stuff like that. I mean, I know in Atlanta, they built so many new apartment complexes over the last 5 years. And some of them we thought were gonna be condos. And no, they ended up being apartments, but, you know, it has, I think, something to do with permitting too and all that kind of stuff. And it was easier for them to get the permits to build as apartments and then maybe they would convert later or something, who knows? But yeah, I mean, that's a concern, it's something to think about, because I think about my daughter too, like, her buying her first house, I'm like, better start planning to help her. Cause yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than when I bought my first house, and I was in California, so I thought that was crazy, but.
It's tricky, like, with my one who's lives out of town, it's a lot cheaper where she lives. She's like, I don't know how I'm gonna do help.
Yeah,
Where am I gonna live? It's like, if I can find a place, it's a little scary
yeah,
for them.
and all the more reason, like, if you can get in now,
Well, they bought there,
yeah, yeah,
and they can't find anything even close. Yeah,
where are they?
in Columbus,
Uh,
they bought there 2 years ago, there's no way they're gonna find anything even close to what they have there in their price range down here. Unless they move, but. That's far.
yeah,
Awesome.
all right, you guys, any other questions? Or comments, or if you want to see any of these charts, or if you want some for, you know, a consult or whatever, just email me. And tell me, you know, the price you want, tell me whatever you want. We'll do the 15. I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
We're getting close to that
That's
point.
fine.
I will be stumbling my way through it. Now, with a 15-year, you do after, the payments are gonna be higher, so that payment differences, you know, so. That may be a more of a,
That's okay.
yeah,
That's just weird.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can make a loan, right, 16-year, I can do whatever I want to it, and it'll calculate it.
Yeah, someone has a question.
Oh, they do, okay, let me try to look at the chat. Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, if you want a copy, I can't see this very well, like who's who, so just shoot me an email, which is erin.diarmas@onwardhomemortgage.com. So shoot me an email if you have a chance. Here, let me put it in there. Oops. It's a really long email address. The fact that we had, I mean, shelter mortgage was a long email address, and then we ended up at home. So thank you all for coming. Happy Monday.
Everybody.
You're welcome.
So where do you live?
This is a calculator, I mean, a rent versus buy calculator.
It's a what?
It's a rent versus buy calculator.
Yeah, basically, but it figures, it's a step further than that because it figures all the back end of the shape and stuff, so versus, yeah.
Yes, I'm asking, like, I have a couple of people who are renting right now, and when I tell them, they're looking to buy, so
Yeah.
I send them a flyer with you guys and a couple other people's mortgage information, like, hey, contact these people. And I'm gonna tell them to ask for a,
That's my sister.
Do you like the waiting one? The second one, the one that's up right now is the cost of waiting.
ask for a cost of waiting, yeah, cost of waiting.
Yeah. Buying now versus buying later. I like the cost of waiting one. I think it's simpler overall. You know, if you're showing it to them, I wanted to show both to you because I wanted you guys to understand. I think you've got a higher level, obviously, of understanding than I think probably some of your people do, because this is new to them, especially first time buyers, like they haven't even done this before, so. You know, I have to remind myself that sometimes when I'm talking to people, okay, layman's terms, slow down and just make sure that they understand, the key concepts.
Probably.
Because, we want to help them make good decisions, not just. All right, you guys, leave the Zoom now. So you're all free to go. Yeah. And then they will go a year ago. So, thanks guys. I don't know.
Thanks, Erin.
You're welcome.